I want to introduce you to my grandfather, Banarsi Das Sanoff. He was a freedom fighter during the revolution against the British government. And as it turns out, on the day that my father was born, in 1946, my Dadaji was sitting in jail with Gandhi. So I grew up with stories about my grandfather, who was this tenacious survivor who never gave up, no matter how hard it got. Of course, India eventually gains its independence, but the country is in total chaos. Our family, we were jewelers, were living in a ton of uncertainty because we didn't know from one day to the next if we could feed the 12 children in my dad's family. So eventually, my dad gets the idea that he's going to come to America to achieve the dream. Right? He marries my mom. He comes here with $8 in his pocket with this simple belief that with hard work and education, they can make it. So eventually, I'm born into this legacy of courage, of justice, and of always doing the right thing, no matter how hard it gets. And Rashmi means the rays from the sunrise, right? So the dawn of a new day. I could do anything. So when I'm 10, I used to do the same when I was a kid. I would argue with my dad every chance I got, right? So one day I'm in the car, and my dad's driving, and he looks over at me and he goes, Rashmi, you should be an attorney one day, because you're smart, you're confident, and then you can argue with whoever you want. And I looked over at him and I was like, okay. And from that day forward, success for me meant I'm going to be the best attorney I can be. And I make a plan. Like, I'm going to do all the things, right? I'm going to go to the best schools, get the best grades, win all the awards, and make a lot of money. Success. So when I was a senior in high school, my parents would come, like I said, with $8 in their pocket. We ended up in this home in Gables Estates in Miami, arguably the nicest neighborhood in Miami. And my parents had achieved. But they were in real estate and the market crashed. It was 1989. And my parents carried whatever little they could into a small home a block from my high school because this home we lost to foreclosure. And my dad would cry in the bathroom and try to hide from my sisters and I because, of course, he didn't want us to see him. Because this did not look like the achievement and the success that he came to America for. But he did this really important thing with my mom, which was he told my sisters and I the truth from day one. And gave us the ability to ask questions and see them go through the struggle because we were living in that total uncertainty. We did not know how we were going to survive. So I'm a senior in high school at this point. I'm 18, and I decide, wait, I've heard about my grandfather struggling. I've now watched my parents struggle. I know I'm never going to struggle if I follow the plan. Makes sense logically, right? Boy, was I wrong. So I drawn for my 25-year career in law and banking and yes, insurance, and created the RISE framework because this is what I know for sure. I had spent my whole life believing that I could avoid this struggle, but isn't it the universal truth that we will all go through something? It just looks different for all of us. And today you're going to hear my story, and mine is mine. Every one of you has your own story and journey through life. But what I know for sure is that when we go through these moments, when the world tells us to rise above, that just means that we're pushing harder and moving on, which is just an escape. And hopefully today I'm going to help you think and feel differently, that the only way to grow and evolve and become better humans and better versions of ourselves so that we can grow with our teams and in our organizations is by rising through it. So we're going to go through 4 steps: reframe, identify, surrender, and then evolve. So I'm 18, and eventually I go to UNC Chapel Hill. Any Tar Heels? Woo! Yes, go Heels. Sometimes there's got to be Dookies in here too, probably. Yeah, okay. We'll still let you. So So I go to Carolina, I get inducted into all the honor societies. Yes, I'm following my plan. I go on to Wall Street and I work at Morgan Stanley as an investment banker. And then I decide I want to go to law school, and I go to Columbia Law School. And I graduate with highest honors. So by all accounts, things are going well. Eventually I move to Miami, I start my own law practice, and I marry a firefighter. We have these two incredible children. Like, aren't they yummy? Can I tell you that I don't remember even taking this picture? Because after working at a few big law firms, eventually I start my own law practice, and I'm a solopreneur, and I am hustling. I'm literally going to every networking event, selling my services at the gym, trying to get any next client to make payroll, and I started missing dinner. The kids started asking me, Mommy, will you be home? And I started having marital problems. Because I was so imprisoned in the mindset that I had grown up my whole life believing, which was, I have to achieve. I've got to get the next client. I've got to be able to make payroll. And as a solopreneur, I was wearing all sorts of hats. So it's in this period of my life, in this context, that I get the chance to meet a real estate developer. So my kids are 2 and 3 at the time. Does anybody remember what was happening in 2007? Yeah, that's exactly what was happening. And I live in South Florida, and I'm a real estate attorney. So I get the chance to meet a real estate developer. Now, I've already described, right? I had been hustling, and in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, if I get one big client, that means volume business, which means financial stability, which means more time with my kids. So I jump at this opportunity, right? Like, I've got to get this client. So I go into his office, it's in Miami Beach, and I go into the conference room, and his 2 right-hand guys were there to talk to me. He, the developer, was sitting in a side office. And they began to describe these transactions that they were doing, which were essentially creative transactions. Now, I had been doing a ton of transactions for buyers who were buying from big developers represented by big firms. And in my mind, I had to get this money. So he began to describe these transactions. And he would say, Brian, if you buy my condo unit, I'll give you a 2-year rental guarantee. I have a management company. They'll manage it for you. You won't even have to worry about a mortgage payment for 2 years. Like, everyone was buying investment property, right? It's kind of creative, but okay, let me go call my underwriting counsel. You guys get that? So I go into the side office, I call my underwriting counsel, and I said, I'm here with this developer, he's doing third-party disbursements on the HUD, and I left out a very important fact. In hindsight, I recognize, which is I didn't say that the buyer was getting a financial benefit. Because it wasn't flowing through my escrow account. So I thought that all that matters is, as an attorney, my escrows have to match the closing statement, right? So my underwriter said, as long as you do A, B, C, D, E, you're good. It's like, awesome. So I go back into the conference room, and I'm like, okay, cool, let's work. I'm telling you, within 2 weeks, I had my first closing request. And it was like a steamroll came in, and I never took the time, nor did I make the time to do any due diligence on, now this guy who I'm about to lay in bed with, but like on the process, the transactions themselves. And by the way, I'm surrounded by attorneys. My mentors, my friends, and yes, even my parents are not attorneys. So I could have gone to any number of people to ask for help. And I realize now I didn't ask for help because I didn't want to know the answers. I was so focused on getting the client. So a couple months later, it was Christmas, and that year my entire family descends into Miami. Okay, my uncles, my aunties, my sisters, my cousins. You got it right, I come from a very big Indian family. So everyone comes in and we're celebrating Christmas. It's Christmas Eve. It's 8 o'clock. We've just drank eggnog. You can hear the Christmas music. You can smell the Christmas tree. The kids have just made Christmas cookies to leave for Santa. And I go into my kids' bedroom to make them sleep. So they used to share a bedroom, and Maya was in her crib, and Kyler was in his toddler bed, and I was sitting on the glider. Do you guys remember those? Anyone remember those? Yeah. So I was sitting in the glider, and I was singing my children to sleep. It's nostalgic for me. It's the same lullaby that my parents used to sing to me. So I'm singing to my children, I'm sitting in the glider, and as I'm singing to my children, I look down at my BlackBerry. You guys remember those? Yeah, so this is how long ago this was. So I'm looking at my BlackBerry, and an email pops in. Okay, so first question. Who expects me to answer this email or even look at my BlackBerry on Christmas Eve at 8 o'clock? Anybody think I should be answering this email? I see a lot of women saying yes, yeah, because I'm a solopreneur, I'm a mother, and I pride myself on customer service. Right, so I'm going to distinguish myself from every other attorney, because I got to keep this client and make him happy, by answering emails on Christmas Eve as I'm singing my children to sleep. So an email pops in, and in the email is 2 lines that said, buyer to receive $72,000 for rental guarantee. I don't know about you guys, but that's a lot of money. So immediately in my gut, I was like, oh, it was like a sucker punch. I was like, okay, that doesn't feel right. So there was an attachment to the email, and within 2 seconds, I forwarded the email. So now, why do I forward this email when clearly my gut doesn't feel right? Well, I have a house full of relatives. It's almost Christmas morning. My kids are not yet sleeping. And none of my presents are wrapped. Right? Like, how easy is it to forward an email without opening an attachment? Without actually listening to your gut? Because I was definitely silencing my noise. Because I was ready to get my kids to sleep and go out and wrap presents. So you'll hear in a little bit how important that email ended up being. So I do about 15 months of work with this developer, and it was about 200 closings in Miami and Tampa. And then I stopped working with him altogether. I merged my practice with my father's. We're not even doing transactional work anymore, and I'm now litigating with my dad. So now it's 2009, 2010, right? So now there's a lot of foreclosure business. So I began to represent Fannie, Freddie, Nations Bank, Aqua, like all of the big servicers and banks, and now we're doing plaintiff foreclosure work. I grow our practice by 1,200%. I'm going to conferences, I'm meeting people, things are going well. 2 years go by, so now it's 4 years after I met the developer, and 2 FBI agents show up at my office. Yeah, that gasp was exactly what I felt. Who here has dealt with the FBI? Yeah, it's really freaking scary. So they show their badges, and I'm like, I didn't know that I could say to them, hey, can I get your card and I'll call you back when I have an attorney? Right, and first of all, they're operating off that fear, and they know I'm intimidated. And what's going on in my mind is I didn't do anything wrong. My files have passed audit. This is 4 years later, guys. My files have passed audit. My escrows are clean. I'm good. So I let them into my office. I used to have this circular table by my desk, and they sat there, and these 2 agents grilled me for 4 hours. They showed me pictures and documents and emails, and I'm answering these questions. Yes, no, yes, no. As if I could even remember what happened 4 years ago. Did I meet this person? Did I open this email? So when they leave, I was like, okay, they were just asking me questions. 2 more years go by, and I now get a grand jury subpoena for documents. And I'm still operating with this pretense, right? I haven't done anything wrong. They just wanted all my documents, right? I'm a records custodian. So I give all my documents through an attorney. And within 3 months, this attorney, who's the former U.S. attorney for the Southern District of Florida, very close mentor and friend, calls me into his office and he says, Rashmi, you're a target. When I tell you guys, I didn't even know what that meant. Like, I'm not a criminal lawyer, I'm a dirt lawyer. They can't be coming after me. And I was shaking uncontrollably. Because this was my whole life. This was everything I had worked so hard for, and all I could think about was, oh my God, I'm disgracing my parents and my children and my community. I sit on a lot of boards in Miami. And this did not look like success. And I tried really hard to avoid indictment. But in April 2014, I was indicted for 1 count of conspiracy to commit bank fraud and 24 counts of bank fraud. And I thought my life was over. And I was so convinced that I didn't do anything wrong. How could this be happening? I was so angry. So one of the things that my family decided was we're going to call our Indian family, right, our close aunties and uncles to the house. So my parents were leaders in the community, so we wanted them to come, and we wanted them to tell them. So they come in, and we fed them samosas, because that's what we do. And then, so they were all sitting in the living room, and my dad was standing in the corner, and I was sitting on the couch. One of the uncles was here, my mom was here. And my dad started telling them and told them that I had just been indicted. And he's crying. And I'm crying. My mom's here, hard as nails. She's definitely not the crier. And this uncle here says, Beti, one day when you realize that this is not happening to you, where is it? It's happening for you. And honestly, I didn't get it in the moment, but it became like a seed that got planted back here. Like, okay, I don't know why this is happening, but I need to try to have some faith. Why is this happening? Because all I could do in that moment was reframe. Like, this was absolutely a negative, and I could either sit with it and wallow in it and woe is me and cry every day, or I could reframe it and figure out what am I going to do. Like, I was going to turn that negative into a positive and recognize that there's got to be light on the other side of this mountain. I just can't see it yet. And all of us go through these moments of darkness. Right? It could be marital, medical, legal, financial, mental health. Or it looks like fear, disruption, AI, uncertainty, government risk. I know this industry is going through this. Last night I had a chance to speak to a lot of you, and I can feel it. When I ask you guys what are the things on your mind, I hear it. It's the uncertainty, it's the government risk, it's the unknown, it's talent challenges. Like, what's happening next? Well, what I know is that every one of you can get through this. In your organizations, individually, at home, in your communities. And there is no other option but to reframe. So for me, a couple months after I got indicted, right? I now had a new attorney, David. And David is a very close friend of mine, lives a mile from me. His wife went to Carolina with me. Our kids have been placed together. And I was planning to go to trial. Like, I'm not guilty, I haven't done anything. My files were perfect. And I had spent 4 months going through discovery. Like, I had printed 200,000 pages of documents and 15,000 emails, and I would take my kids to school and go back and read them and go through them. And every few weeks I would meet with my attorney. And we'd pull out good documents and we'd pull out bad documents. So in August of 2014, my attorney said, hey, can your parents and you come in for a meeting? So Mom, Dad, and I walk in expecting that we're going to talk about trial strategy because trial was set for December. So we're going to talk experts and exhibits and my testimony and witnesses. And instead we walked in and my attorney said, listen, Rashmi, if you go to trial, the government's going to put up their case and show this evidence. And then we're going to put up our case and show our evidence. And then the government's going to put up their rebuttal. Any guess on their evidence? The email. Like, how could I have known at 8 o'clock on Christmas Eve that an email I forwarded once, because it's just that one time, right? Out of convenience, that became, of course there was a lot of other evidence, but that became the pivotal evidence against me. And so my attorney said, Rashmi, I know you, I've known you for 20 years, I know you didn't walk into this planning a crime, you're a really good person. But here's the thing, as an attorney, you had a fiduciary duty to do more. To listen to your gut, to ask the questions that you didn't ask, and not doing something is still doing something wrong. We live in a world where silence just feels like it's okay. But every one of you is a fiduciary professional. And you have the obligation to recognize that not doing something is still doing something wrong. And he walked through and he was like, look, Rashmi, if you go to trial, the jury is going to get a whole host of jury instructions, but let's talk about two. The first was conspiracy. The conspiracy jury instruction says, if the defendant knew even one detail out of 500 million, you, the jury, have to convict her. So if I knew one thing, which I did, right? She was like, Rashmi, your name was on everything. You knew there was a rental guarantee, because as it turns out, when I went through discovery, there was a lot of things that this developer was doing outside of closing that I did not know. Paying off the buyers, all sorts of things. But what I knew was that there was a rental guarantee, and that's all that mattered. And I should have disclosed that. And then the second jury instruction is willful blindness. Right? You can't put your head in the sand. You can't pretend not to know. So all I could do was decide in that moment that I'm going to plead guilty. And I had to recognize that every morning I'm going to get up and be now a felon. That all the people think about me. I've spent my whole life believing that people only respect me and love me and are my friends because I'm an achiever. I'm like a superstar. And now this was the exact opposite of that. And I did not know what it was going to look like. But I decided, okay, I'm going to reframe this. So here's the thing, right? We know a lot of people, probably in this room as well, but famous people, lots of people, that have reframed moments in their lives that we don't even know about sometimes. So I have a little challenge for you before I move on, and whoever guesses, there is a chocolate story coming, and I have homemade chocolate truffles for whoever guesses, all right? So here you go. I promise you all know who this person is. Whoever guesses, gets my homemade chocolate truffles. This person was in foster care in Georgia, was kicked out of his home when he was 16 for selling drugs. At the age of 3, he could recite every Jose Marti's poems by heart. Okay, if you guys guess. If you guys know it, guess. In 2024, he bought naming rights for a college football stadium. He co-founded the tuition-free Slam charter school that started in Miami and now has expanded. And when Hurricane Maria hit Puerto Rico, he sent his own jet to ferry cancer patients for chemo. Any guess?
Pitbull.
Yes, Pitbull. Who guessed? Who guessed? Armando Christian Perez. So guys, good job. You can share. There's a few. Okay, so first of all, who's gonna dance with me? Somebody likes to love Pitbull. All right. So here's the thing, right? Let's go back to that slide. So Pitbull is. Oh, well, see if I can go back to that slide. Pitbull is arguably a billionaire, right? He's an entrepreneur. He's a philanthropist. None of you want to be global artists, maybe? Maybe one of you wants to be a singer? But this guy came literally from the pits, right? Did any of you guys know his story? Isn't that amazing? We danced to his songs, we look up to him, we wanted to go to his concerts on New Year's Eve, and this guy came from nothing, struggling. Pitbull and I are actually really good friends now. It's a great story on how I met him, which you can ask later, but he invited me to be the commencement speaker at his school. I spoke for him a few times, and one of the things he always says to me is that failure is just an opportunity to try again. Right? Like, I have gone through massive failure that I did not plan for and did not fit this goal that I had. And he's helped me in the last decade recognize that it's just an opportunity for me to try something again. ago, there's no way I could have imagined standing in front of 1,500 of you in the Cayman Islands, hopefully impacting you and inspiring you. I tell people that like my definition of success used to be how much money I was going to make, what college I went to, what grades I got, the standard, especially Indian mentality. And now, I define myself that if I can impact one of you today, that's success for me. Right? So we don't even always recognize who we admire and love. You might not love his music. You might not want to listen to it or dance to it, but you can admire where he's come from and where he is today. And he tells me it's all because he decided to reframe. And we can all do it, right? So once you reframe, I have decided, actually, what does struggle mean? So before I give, well, you guys can see my definition, but I'd like to ask people, and you can just yell it out, what's one word that you would describe as struggle? Resulting from it, leading to it. Sorry?
Perseverance.
Perseverance. No right or wrong answer.
Job loss.
Job loss. Yeah, real stuff.
Pain.
Pain. Yes.
Despair.
Despair.
Raising kids.
How many parents do we have in the room? Raising kids. Yes, it's like real stuff, man. Raising kids. Right? Like struggle is here sometimes multiple times a day for us in different ways, and we are all juggling so much all the time. And the world is very uncertain right now. We are living in a time where there's so much coming at us all at once, right? Whether it's the government, tariffs, taxes, kids, all of it. And instead of running from it, all we can do is like figure it out and feel that pain in our bones. Like I believe that the only way to get to the next level is by feeling that pain. Because that's how you grow. Like you gotta go through the discomfort to get to the other side. So this is my definition of struggle. It's the shock of uncertainty that disrupts your path. Right? Like I had a path to not go as I planned. The discomfort that stays with you and tests your patience. Because does struggle just come and go, like in a hot second? Generally not, right? Like generally it takes, we wish it would go pass fast. But most of the time, whatever it is that we're facing, it takes time. So we've got to be patient. We have to, it's the invitation to wrestle with it. Like really wrestle with it, sit with it, learn from it, grow from it. Feel the discomfort, and then allow it to transform who you are becoming. Because do we ever arrive? No. We're always growing and becoming. Right? We're growing into better versions of ourselves. We're learning things about ourselves. I tell my kids, try something new every day. Learn something new every day. It's awesome because my kids call me and they share with me all the things that they're doing. Because this is what I believe. Struggle isn't a detour. It's the doorway. It's the doorway into the light that we can't see it, but we know it's there. I promise you, when I was going through this, I thought my life was over. I thought no one was going to be my friend. I had no idea what I was going to do because I lost my bar license. And what I've recognized is it was just a doorway. I just had to believe that it was there. So once you reframe, then you can identify. And for me, identifying is two things. You identify what are your core values. Because what happened was I was out of alignment with my core values. Right? Like I do a lot of leadership work now with teams and organizations around this. Like really rooting into what are our core values, finding that alignment, and then finding our why. So identifying what are your core values, and then identifying who are the people that are going to put up a mirror and show you what you really do need to know about yourself. Because we all have friends. Many of you probably have friends in this room. And friends are there, but you don't want just friends that are just going to say, yes, yes, you're right. We want champions, but we also want people to challenge us, to anchor us to the truth, to be unapologetic truth tellers. So when I was going through this, I decided I I was going to call 200 people in my life. This is before I got sentenced. I had no idea what was going to happen. I was scared, freaking out of my mind. And I was so sure that as I picked up the phone and called these 200 people, that they were going to hang up on me. Like, why would any of them ever want to talk to me or support me after this? Because the only reason they love me is because I'm an achiever. Because I went to Columbia Law School, like all the things. So one by one, I would call my friends and mentors, and I literally called elementary school friends, college friends, law school friends, my kids' friends' parents, my kids' teachers, executive directors of nonprofits in Miami, politicians in Miami, managing directors of law firms in Miami. I literally called anybody that knew me at my core, knew my history as a human being. And I was sure that they were going to hang up on me. And instead what happened was that the judge got 182 letters of support. So these are 4. And people shared stories about how I impacted them in high school. Stories about when I was 12 and how I changed their lives. I mean, I could have never known that this was the impact I had on friends. It was like if I eulogized before I died. Who gets that chance? And though I thought that every one of them would disown me, instead they loved on me, and this is what I figured out. People are very forgiving of our humanity. When we give them a chance. So one of my friends said, Rashmi, you stood naked and exposed for the entire world to judge you. And we did. And we got to see ourselves in you. We got to teach our kids about you and we love you. It was like the exact opposite of what I thought was going to happen. And look, I'm real. Because I'm sure there are people in this room that are naysayers and want to hate on me, and that's okay. Because maybe you're not ready to hear my story. But what I know is that those 200 people showed up for me, 182, on the day I got sentenced. How many of you, I know there's lawyers in this room, how many of you have been in a federal courtroom? Some of you. So they're long, really high ceilings. They don't have these beautiful lights. But on that day, it was a hot Tuesday, June morning in 2015. I didn't know who was going to show up. My college roommate flew in from New York just to be there without telling me. One of my buddies from college drove down from Charlotte overnight without telling me. And that room was packed with people there to love on me, to show the judge that they unconditionally supported me. So many people were there, in fact, that the marshals had to tell people to wait outside. So on the day of my sentencing, I walk up to that podium. The judge sits on that sort of higher level chair, and I gave my allocution. So an allocution is essentially a defendant's apology, and I apologized to the judge, I apologized to my family, and I turned around and I apologized to my community. And I promised to do better. And then the judge sentenced me to 1 year and a day in prison. And I know I don't fit the mold, do I? I mean, do I? I don't look like somebody who would go to prison. I'm literally the last person that anybody would think would go to prison. Those of you that met me last night, right? There's no way you could have known. But when that happened, I collapsed on the ground and was hysterical crying. And it's not that I was scared for me. Right? I'm my grandfather's granddaughter. I can get through anything. I'm a fighter, I'm a survivor, I'm strong. Who was I scared for? Right. What's going to happen to my kids? Who will love on them? Because even though there are struggles, they were 9 and 10. And aren't we the hero of their eyes? And that was all I could think about. Like, what's going to happen to them? But all I could do was surrender. Yes, of course, I had to physically surrender, but I literally had to surrender. Which for me meant I had to let go of ego, because man was I trapped in ego. What will people think? What will people say? What will people think about me? What will my reputation be like after this? I mean, does anybody ever think these things? Don't we think about this all the time? So I had to let go of ego because ego is a trap. And I did not have a choice. I had to just let go because it was going to absolutely overcome me. And I was getting ulcers. So I had to let go of ego. I had to let go of control. Because I am, by the way, if you ask my ex-husband, he'll tell you I'm a control freak. And now I was about to enter a period of my life of total uncertainty and no control. Where am I going to sleep? What am I going to eat? What will I be wearing? Who will I be with? Will I be safe? I had to let go of fear because God was I trapped in fear. I was so scared. I mean, I was scared about like what's going to happen after this, but I was scared about going to prison. And I had to let go of judgment. So we are our own worst critics. And I was passing so much judgment on myself until I could forgive myself. Right? Forgiveness we do for ourselves, we don't do it for others. I had to get to the point where I could look at myself in the mirror and say, I forgive you. And it took months, right? It was not easy. Because I was so hard on myself all the time. I was stuck in the cultural beliefs and the assumptions and the norms and the limiting beliefs and all the things that we tell ourselves. So on the day of my surrender, which was in August of 2015, I had a couple of wishes. I used to be an avid runner, so I wanted to run at sunrise and pray with my family. So I went to my happy place in Miami, which is Madison Hammock Park, and I wanted to run and then pray with my family at sunrise. So you might be able to see my son is not there. He was so upset. He couldn't even come. My dad's crying, as you can see. My mom is not. Sort of a pattern in our family. But in this moment, I felt like I was entering a twilight zone. Like I had no idea what was about to happen. And I was like just going through the steps. It was like I was compartmentalizing how I felt. And then I became 05121-104. They tried to take away my identity. They tried to take away Rashmi, Airan. And I didn't let them. But I was recognized only as 05121-104. And as I sat in prison, I had a lot of time to think about, how did I let this happen? But I wasn't going to let myself get trapped in the ego, the fear, the control. And I began to recognize that letting go is actually power. Like loss aversion is a thing. None of us want to lose things. But actually letting go and just letting the universe, it doesn't mean that we don't keep following our paths and working hard and doing the things. But these things of ego, control, fear, and judgment, we can actually let go of. Right? So I'm going to do a quick exercise with you guys, please. If you could all close your eyes. And think about one thing that you're trying to control. An outcome, a person. Maybe it's your kid trying to get into a college. Maybe it's winning the client. Maybe it's buying a house. Do you have actual control over the outcome? Do all the things, but you don't actually have control, right? So now can you just surrender to it? Pretend like you're wrapping that thing in the middle of your hands. Everyone put your hands in front of you, as if you've packaged that thing in the middle of your hands. And just squish it all together and let it go. Erase it. Because letting go is truly a choice. It's as easy as deciding, I'm not going to let this overcome what I'm thinking, what I'm feeling, what I'm doing, how I'm behaving. Right? When I met this client, I was so controlled by achievement and making money and how am I going to pay for things that I didn't let my core values take control. I was just stuck in that ego. And I think the more we train ourselves to let go of these things, we get more power. We start to make better decisions. And then we don't get stuck in this self-imposed prison that we find ourselves in all the time. I had a lot of time in prison to think about, yes, I was physically in prison, right? But I was also in this mental prison my whole life. Of believing I had to be a certain way to be loved, I had to do certain things to actually be considered successful. And yes, we work hard and we want to be successful, but that's not what defines us. What defines us is who are we as humans? So, as you move forward, what can you surrender to? And then once you surrender, you identify. Sorry, you evolve. So evolution, after you've felt the pain and gone through the discomfort, comes in many ways. So I want to share kind of 3 strategies and things that I did to evolve, but all of you can choose and might do other things. So when I was in prison, my kids would come visit me. Sorry. You will, by the way, some of you are taking pictures. There will be an opportunity in a little bit to scan a QR code, give me some feedback, and I will send you the toolkit with lots of extra exercises, and there's an assessment actually that I have for more learning, so I'll share that in a second. So my kids would come visit me in prison, and they would drive 5 hours each way, and they were 9 and 10, and all they wanted to do was hug on me and love on me. And the first time I remember they came, they went into a side room, and there were a bunch of board games, and they picked out the first game they could find, which was apples to apples, or apples on apples, apples to apples, I think. Has anybody played this game? Okay, so I had never played it before prison, but so my kids brought it out, and that became our family game every time that they would come and visit me. They would go to visitation, and then we would go to the vending machines. So fun fact, when you're an inmate, you're not allowed to touch dollar bills. So I would have to stand there, and my kids would have to take out the dollar bills. And my treat was Diet Coke and a Chobani Flip yogurt, because they had just come out, and I was excited, and they were really good. You might notice that orange is one of my brand colors. It's on all my slides. It's not because orange is any black. Check it out all the time. But my prison color was safari green. So yes, I've rid my entire closet of safari green, and I'll never wear it again because I'm a little traumatized. But orange is the color of transformation. Which when I got out, I had to really understand, how did this happen? What am I going to do? What's next? And I made a choice. I'm going to transform. And so my kids would come to visit me this started when I was in prison, and when my kids would come to visit me, I just learned to be where my feet are. To really just be present. Remember earlier when they were little, I didn't even remember taking that picture? And now I try to live my life present in the moment. And I'm not perfect. I'm still working on it. Our phones are horrible. But we spend so much of our lives trying to do the next thing, get the next thing, get to the next appointment. And we sometimes forget, especially with our children and our families, to just be where our feet are and live in that moment. So, have any of you actually seen Orange is the New Black? So my cube kind of looks similar. Instead of bunks next to each other, we had bunk beds. I was on the top bunk. And a few weeks after I got to where I was in 3 separate facilities. But the second facility where I was at longest was Coleman, which is an hour north of Orlando. And I would sleep on that top bunk. Can you see that ledge next to the mattress? I used to keep a gratitude journal there that one of my friends sent to me a few weeks later. And I had never done this practice of writing in a gratitude journal. I don't know if some of you have. But I started writing this gratitude journal. So literally every morning, the guards would walk by at 5:45 for count. And I would wake up, and the first thing I would do, before getting up to go to the bathroom, before getting down from my bunk, is I would get up, turn my nightlight on that I bought from commissary, and I would pull that gratitude journal onto my lap, and I would write in my gratitude journal. 3 things I'm grateful for, 3 affirmations, and 3 things that would make today great. So these are 2 of my pages from the day before and the day of Christmas. I wasn't with my family or my children. And I made a choice to find gratitude. Right? Studies show if we find gratitude in these moments, as we write in a gratitude journal, it gives us peace, it gives us clarity, it helps our mental health, and helps us move through the discomfort. I'm sitting in prison, away from my children, and I made a choice to find gratitude. No matter how hard it is, and I can tell you that Mike and Kyla know, I had a huge scare with my dad this past weekend. He ended up in the hospital, we didn't know what was going to happen. And in those moments, we as a family kept saying, we're grateful for this, we're grateful for this. It looks like a thing for our family. We're of course, in prayer. Thankfully, Dad's okay. But even in those medical moments, when things feel unfair, scary, unknown, I challenge you and I invite you to find gratitude. Because it's a strategy that helps us rise through it. And I recognize that I had to lose my freedom to gain this freedom of knowing. And I don't wish this on any of you. Like, none of you will go through what I went through. But I am a much better human being today having gone through this. I'm happier today having gone through this, which I could never have expected. And it sounds antithetical. So I had spent 5 months at Coleman. And then around, right before December 15th or so, I got an email. We were having an email, through a prison system. I had 30 people on my email list. One of them was, of course, my attorney. So one day I get this email from my attorney. He says, hey, there's another case in Tampa, and the prosecutor there is asking if you can be a witness. The deal is, if you go testify in this other case, you might come home early. Skip halfway house, skip house arrest. I'm like, okay, that's a pretty good deal. I'll take that deal. So, but there's no federal prison in Tampa, which meant I was going to have to be housed in county jail. So when you're in the federal system, you hear a lot about county jail, and they're basically all horror stories about the guards, about the people, about the food, everything. Now I'm voluntarily choosing to go to county jail to go testify in this case. So they put me in an armored van, they handcuff and they shackle me with a waist chain, strip me, put all the things. And I get in the armored van, and as I'm driving to county jail, what's going on in my head is, I don't belong with those women. I'm an attorney, I'm educated, I don't belong with them. And I get there, and I ended up spending 23 days with these women. And the woman above me was a prostitute heroin dealer. The woman next to me was a homeless person who'd been selling drugs. And above her, a 24-year-old meth dealer. And I would have never before met them. And I absolutely would have passed judgment on them. And I spent 23 days cooking, eating, praying, crying, sleeping, getting them to work out with me. And I learned, how dare I pass judgment on these women? We are so quick to judge others, but for the grace of God, they go up. Because we are all just drops from the same ocean, living a flawed human existence, trying to figure it out, trying to make ends meet, trying to raise our families and be successful in our businesses. So one night I was sitting with these women, and the only way to watch TV was, at the DMV, there was a TV stuck to the wall, and then there were these hard metal blue chairs that we would sit in to watch this TV. So I'm sitting there with my 3 bunkies, and the movie Burlesque comes on. Has anybody seen this movie with Cher and Christina Aguilera? Yeah, it's fun, right? A lot of dancing and great eye candy for men and women, depending on how you go. I really wanted to look like Christina Aguilera in that movie. So we're singing and we're dancing and we're having fun. And one of the women says, hey, do you know how to Bollywood dance? We go back to our unit after the movie ends. And I'm like, it's kind of a trick question, because all of us Indian people think we know how to Bollywood dance. So she said, well, will you teach us? I don't have any music. How am I going to teach you? She goes, I'll hum this really great song for you. I'm like, okay. So I would like to invite all of you to stand up. It's early morning, and we're going to move our bodies. I promise you, it's 2 seconds. We're going to move our bodies, and I'm going to help you learn what I taught them. So, with a smile on your face. All right, so these women said, can you teach us? And I said, sure. So she starts humming this up. Who knows the song? Okay. So I told them, put your hands up like a goalpost. Move your shoulders up and down, bounce them up and down. There you go. Open and close the light bulb. Yeah, and then move your hips. There you go. Right, you got it. I didn't even invite you up here. Right? All right, who's on it now? That's great, thank you. that I forgot to find joy. Right? Like I missed out on so many moments of finding joy. And there I am in prison, finding joy with women who became my sisters, but I had been passing judgment on them before. So can we find more joy in our lives? You guys, this conference, I understand, is a lot of fun. There's going to be a lot more fun going on here. You know, and like this is a everyday thing and challenge for me. Like my kids are still telling me, Mom, please go date. Please start dating, because I still work a lot. Right? But like it's a daily commitment to find gratitude, to be present, and to find joy. There's a lot of strategies that help us evolve. These are 3 that I have employed. I mean, we're running out of time, so I could talk about a lot more, but we'll stop with that. Oh, sorry. So 2 weeks later, we already did the dance also. So 2 weeks later, I get transported back to federal, and now there's a hearing that's scheduled for Friday morning at 9 a.m. My attorney says it's at 9 a.m., call me at 10. So the night before, it's Thursday, and some of you might be like me, but I was like, I can't go home empty-handed. I gotta bring something to my kids. So I learned a lot of prison hacks in prison. One of them was I learned how to make prison chocolate truffles. This is your chocolate story, sir. So I learned how to make chocolate truffles in prison, which is kind of like weird, right? You might wonder how I did that. So I had a friend that worked in the kitchen, and she would bring me butter and cream cheese. I would sort of take chocolate milk from the chow hall, and then I would buy hot cocoa, Hershey's bars, and these fake Oreo cookies that you could buy from commissary. And I learned how to make chocolate truffles, right? I'd like crush the Oreos real fine, I'd mix everything together, I'd roll them into little balls, and I'd lay them out to dry. So I laid them out to dry. The next morning, my attorney had said, call me at 10, right? So I walk up to this wall where there are payphones. Do you guys even remember what those are? Right, but this is what they have in prison. So I pick up a receiver. I had to dial like 100 numbers to get out. And I pick up the phone, and the first thing David, my attorney, says is, "You're going home!" And that's what it felt like. Like, I get to go home to my family. I don't have to be on house arrest. I don't have to go to house arrest. I get to go home 5 months earlier than I thought. So the next call I made was to my family, because of course they knew there was a hearing. I had spoken to them. My mom picks up the phone, and you know what she said? I go, "Mom, I can send Dad to leave. I can come home. The judge ruled I can come home." And she says, "Dad left in Africa." Like, that's the kind of faith my parents have. So Dad comes, and I run into his arms. Actually, he handed me my cell phone. I was like, oh, this kind of feels weird, right? Like, I hadn't even held a phone in 6 months. We drove home. My mom had sent clothes for me. I stopped in the first rest stop I could, tore off my prison clothes and put on my own clothes. And in the Indian community, when you come home, like anybody comes home from a long journey or a visitor, there's a ceremony that we do outside of, like, usually on the front porch. So we did this ceremony, my mom did this ceremony, and then, I had told I missed the point. I had told my mom, don't tell the kids. Because they were supposed to leave the next day to come visit me. And I said, don't tell the kids, I want to surprise them. So the kids were inside, so I'm outside on the porch doing this ceremony, and I walk in, and this is the actual video of me surprising my children.
Now you see, did it work?
So I know. Surprise!
Okay,
And that was when I decided that I'm going to start my new life. I had lived my whole life believing that I had to live a certain way, that I had to be a certain way. And in fact, it's all for them. And that no matter what we go through, we can rise through it. No matter the uncertainty, no matter the challenge. And like I said, I never believed and would have known that I would be in front of you to share this message. And every time I share this story, it's not about the story. It's about when we go through our moments, which look differently for all of us at all different moments of our lives. It's the belief and the knowing that we can rise through it. no matter what. No matter the change, the discomfort, the struggle, the pain. Because I promise you I have felt all of it. I lost everything. I also got divorced. And what I know is that every one of you can rise through it, right? If you reframe, identify, surrender, and evolve. It's like a mindset shift. And it's not rocket science, but it's something no matter what we're doing, if you just constantly think about. I'm gonna tell you when I just went through this with my dad, Thursday night, Thanksgiving night, this is what was going on through my head. The reframe was, it could have been so much worse. He had 2 small brain bleeds, and gratefully we figured out he needed a pacemaker. Monday, I didn't come Monday morning here because he got a pacemaker Monday afternoon. And I'm like so grateful that we figured out the solution. And by the way, on Saturday, my son had a car accident. So it's like there's always something, right? There's always a struggle. But it's the knowing that we're going to be able to get through it no matter what. The other thing that I've realized is, I had spent my whole life believing that I had to go it alone. I'm the oldest of 3 sisters. And for some reason, people think attorneys have to know it all. And so I never asked questions. I never wanted to be vulnerable. I wanted to be able to do everything and be the hard, strong one. And I am. But what I learned through all of this, as you saw when we shared with our Indian community, when we shared with all my other friends, right, is that people actually show up for us in community. This association exists, right? This forum, you guys are part of this association, to share your struggles with each other, to learn from each other, to grow together, and to rise together. And some of you are obviously competitors, but when you're in the space of sharing struggles, you each grow and lift each other up and come and grow together. And I believe that with all my heart, no matter the industry. So, I do want to end with a quick story, but this is the QR code I promised. So I promise you I'm not going to sell you anything. This is really just for you to give me some honest feedback, please, that I will share with our conference organizers. You will get a toolkit designed for you guys with like all of the steps and all of the, some more prompts and some more like worksheets if you'd like to use them, great. There's a resilience assessment that I've created. I think I have time for like 2 questions while we're doing this, so I'll leave it up. Who has a question? And I'll be sending you some articles and like a daily drip for a little while of some content, just to give you some more value add. Yes, sir. Yeah, it's a great question. The question is, if I had not gone through all of this, would I have still been on my success path? And there's no way for me to know for sure, of course. But I believe that the assumptions and all the things I convinced myself of would have definitely just kept me leading down that very unfulfilling, unhappy path. Yes, ma'am?
What is your new definition of success?
What is my new definition of success? When I go to sleep, have I impacted at least one person in a positive way today? Most of the time I'm on stage, so hopefully one person here has been impacted. Sometimes it's on a plane. Sometimes it's somebody that I spoke to at the gym. Sometimes it's one of my kids' friends. So, I really believe my why now, and why God gave me the courage to do what I do, is to impact people through my story. Yes?
What was the document that you forwarded?
Oh, what was the document that I forwarded? Yeah. So the document, the attachment in the email was a rental guarantee document that I knew was I knew that it was part of every file, but in this specific rental guarantee document was the first time it was, instead of monthly payments, which makes sense for a rental guarantee, it was a lump sum all at once. And that money was being divvied up between the buyer, the mortgage broker, and the realtor.
And who did you send it to?
I sent it to, who did I send it to? This question? I sent it to the real estate broker in the fall, because it came from the mortgage broker, or maybe it came from the real estate broker and I sent it to the mortgage broker. That's what it was. Yeah. Okay, well, so I'm going to say after, but I'd like to end with a story. When my father was 12, he had just finished reading Gandhi's autobiography. And in Gandhi's autobiography, he shares this really embarrassing, humiliating moment for the entire world to read about. forever. Like, it's been documented, right? You can't take it back. It's in a book. Which, by the way, my book is coming out in May, so if any of you guys are interested. But in his autobiography, right, Dad reads it and he's like, I don't get it. So on this one particular day, right after we finished reading it, Dad comes home from school and his father says, my dadaji says, hey, let's go for a bike ride. So Dad's like, okay, so he gets on the bike, and by this point my grandfather had fallen very ill. So he would sit on his carriage next to my dad on the bike. And they would ride around. My dad comes from this tiny little village in India, no paved roads still. I was just there a couple months ago. So they're riding around on these dirt roads of India. They come around to this nearby pond. They get off their bike. Dad pulls fruit from the nearby fruit trees. They start eating fruit. And my dad says to his dad, I don't understand. Why would Gandhi share this really embarrassing moment? I don't understand. It's been written down now forever. And my dadaji says, because that's the point, son. When you go through life's hard lessons, you have a responsibility to share it. So that others never will do and make those same mistakes or errors or judgments. I'm my grandfather's legacy. I stand before you today because I believe I'm meant to share this with all of you. But what's my legacy going to be, right? Well, I believe that when my kids are fighting the fight, that they think of their great-grandfather. Or when they're moving into a new city or a country, or starting something new, that they think of my parents, their grandparents. But when they go through struggle and uncertainty, which they already have in their young lives, and will continue to do so, I hope they remember that they can rise through it. That they can reframe, identify, surrender, and evolve. Right? That's a legacy I can live with. But my invitation to you is, what will your legacy be? Because we don't wait till we're 80 to start our legacy, do we? People don't remember us for what our jobs were, how much money we made, do they? They remember us for how we got through our hard moments. What did we do, and how did we grow, and how did we help others through those moments? That's our legacy. That's my legacy. So I invite you to do one thing today to contribute to your legacy, to rise through the moment that right now feels like it's constraining you. Because what I know is that you can rise through it. No matter the pain or the struggle or the uncertainty or the discomfort, I 100% believe that every one of you can rise through it. Thank you so much. I'm Rashmi.